All right, now our next candidate is Kurt Meyer.
My name is Kurt Meyer. I live in rural Mitchell County, where the Cedar enters the state. For most of my career, I have been a consultant to nonprofit organizations, assisting them with planning, community relations, and fundraising. I have helped several hundred organizations secure funds totaling more than $500 million. I am currently chair of the Mitchell County Democrats and founder and chair of the Tri-County Democrats, Worth, Howard, and Mitchell counties, the first and still only multi-county organization in the state of Iowa. Now, after 2 devastating election cycles, it's time to chart a dramatically different course. That's what I want to touch on first. The new chair must immediately lead this committee in drafting a 3 to 5 year strategic, I called it a plan last night, and my friend Jack Hatch said, call it an agenda. Thank you, Jack. It's a 3 to 5 year agenda. Where do we want to go, and how do we plan to get there? We need a roadmap. We don't currently have one. Implementing our agenda then becomes the chair's primary responsibility, gathering the forces and the resources needed to meet short and long-range goals. Rooted in our agenda, we must craft a series of simple, forward-looking messages so that can be infused into all of our party's programs and activities. Social media efforts also require an overarching strategy, clear implementation steps, and appropriate staffing beginning now. In the area of party building, we must deploy locally based organizers throughout the state to invest in relationships, to engage Democrats with interest and talent, and to build greater grassroots capacity. I envision at least 2 organizers in every congressional district, beginning as soon as we can find them and train them and send them out to do their job. This is not campaign work. This is party building. We all use the term. We all talk about it. I am going to do something about it. We must also expand our general talent pool by recruiting hundreds of people with drive and passion for advancing our party. They're out there. We simply need to look for them, recruit them, be outbound in terms of our efforts to find them, and we also have to make a concerted effort to keep what we've got. We've got to grow our base, and that takes continued, sustained outreach, a high priority task for these intrepid community organizers I talked about just a second ago. As one key subset of this talent pool, I will launch an initiative to identify, recruit, train, and support activists and potential candidates 40 years of age and younger. I will target recruiting at least 250 of these people in this cohort in the next 3 years. Individuals with capacity for party leadership, campaign leadership, or for seeking public office. Yes, we must build our bench. At the same time, we must be much more intentional about supporting the bench that we have. We must enhance and expand our fundraising programs, securing gifts of all sizes, with special efforts aimed toward carrying out recommendations from the 2015 task force that I had the pleasure to head. This is my background. This is very familiar territory. We've got some work to do here. Finally, to retain our first in the nation, must review recommendations from the caucus task force and implement those aimed at greater transparency and inclusivity. We must also provide much better training in support of the caucuses. Technology helps here, to be sure, but training is a skill set, and we haven't always tapped it. Yes, it's a long list of things we must tend to. In some ways, these priorities are similar to those offered by my other 7 colleagues who are seeking this position. This is a good sign. This means that in many cases, what we're talking about is a point of convergence. We're coming together on much of what we need to be about. A consensus may be emerging. Now, you must select a chair to flesh out our plans, to make things happen, and to get things done. Ideally, a person that can talk into a microphone and a telephone at the same time. Now, a few words about my background. Throughout my career, I have been responsible for achieving results, working with and through others, in most cases volunteers. I have worked almost exclusively for organizations by their own definition who are in transition, responsible for securing the funds required for their growth. I seek this position motivated solely by what's best for the future of our party, unencumbered by conflicts of interest, by cross-business connections, by past votes or positions or actions, or by future political candidacies. I regard this job as a full-time position and will resign from any current board roles that require a major time commitment. Furthermore, I pledge not to seek elected office other than to continue in my current nonpartisan post, Township Trustee, Otranto Township, Mitchell County, Iowa, 1 meeting a year, $20 pay. Finally, and importantly, in recent election cycles, I have practiced what I call active neutrality in all contested races for our party's nominations, with the goal of being fair, even-handed, responsive, and attentive. Now let me define and interpret active neutrality. It means I invited these candidates to come to the Tri-Counties. I hosted them. I welcomed them. I introduced them. But as chair, I didn't favor one over the other. I reached out to their staff members. I worked with them and supported them to the best of my ability. I had them in our house. I welcomed them with open arms. But I did not do so while ignoring the needs of others. This is a fundamental belief of mine and consistent with my interpretation of the chair role. Question: now, is this important as we look ahead to gubernatorial and congressional nominations in 2018? As we anticipate Senate and presidential nominations in 2020, I believe it's at the very heart of our party's integrity. The party chair is a rather ill-defined role, yet there is a desired skill set for the person you select. The skill set includes having compelling new ideas, since what we've been doing isn't working. It includes a record of leadership. It includes practical, hands-on experience doing the things that need to be done. And because politics is all about relationships, it probably requires someone who has a record of building and sustaining relationships. Warm, enduring, yes, I will help relationships. Some of us are far better at that than others. Finally, because time passes swiftly, it also includes a sense of urgency. We have a lot of work to do, and I will guarantee if I become the chair of this wonderful party, you are going to have a lot more work to do. I believe Iowa Democrats are ready, and I am too. So let's get going. My name is Kurt Meyer. I live in rural Mitchell County. Thank you for your commitment to our party. I've left ample time for questions.
Okay, so we're first going to take a question from Devin on the conference call. Devin, are you there?
That was unmuted. Give us a second. Can you just type it in if I'm reading it? Just to get a lot better.
We're going to Rick Smith.
Technology is our friend.
Thanks, Kurt. I think we've discussed this a little bit before.
Right.
One of the issues here that SEC members have is we don't feel like we're doing enough. We'd like to do more. And this isn't necessarily a reflection on the current administration. I don't think we voiced that.
Right.
But I've heard many SEC members say, I want to get involved. I want to do more.
Right.
This is an untapped resource. How will you manage that?
Well, I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right. And it's not enough just to have a committee assignment or something like that, and in some cases a constituency to be accountable for. I think that you have to be directly engaged. Not only are you responsible for monitoring the actions that are happening, you're responsible for making these things happen. One of the roles that I envision also for members of the State Central Committee is to conscientiously be a two-way communication avenue. In other words, where you would bring information from your specific district back to the State Central Committee, and then also send messages from the committee out to the rank and file and out to people at the county level. I think that you need to be involved in advocacy. I think you need to be involved in fundraising. I think you need to be involved in identifying additional people that need to be called into service. I think that you need to have metrics that you are responsible for. And if you're not interested in serving in that role, I think that you need to say, this isn't for me, let someone else do it. Because come on, we've got a lot of work to do.
I have a question from
Yes.
somebody in the 3rd district. The task force report, did that body identify a dollar estimate for implementing their recommendations? And if they did, is it a sustainable number? If not, how are we going to go about identifying the number to target?
We have to look at a sustainable number, and ideally we'd be able to sustain that year in and year out. I think the techniques and the tools we're going to use are going to be different, but I think that if we are serious about what we're going to do, we're going to have to broaden the base of financial support, including a significant investment in procuring new donors, in many cases small donors, who, if they are engaged with us and if they've been given a compelling reason to support what we're thinking of doing, they will stay with us long term. I had a conversation with the finance director of an adjacent state. They said that 6 years ago they had 4,000 contributors. They then spent a couple hundred thousand, I'm not advocating that now, but in securing new donors, knowing that it wouldn't pay for itself in the next cycle, but by 2 cycles and 3 cycles later, and now of course we're 3 cycles later, they have more than recouped their costs. They now have 20,000 donors. Our numbers may be a little bit different, but if we don't invest with both attention and dollars in new donor procurement, we're going to find that our steady and steadfast donors are eventually going to wither and no longer be with us.
But, so they did not identify a dollar?
The task force did not identify a dollar amount.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm Shelley Servideo, Vice Chair of the Veterans Caucus.
Hi.
I'd like to know what you would do in this position of leadership to support the constituency caucuses and their role in the SCC.
Great question. I would consider doing 2 things. First, working with each of the constituency caucuses to create a plan for growth and expansion of the constituency caucus role. I mean, I want to make sure that what you're doing today is consistent with what you want to be doing a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. And most of those plans would be aimed at growth. And then I think it's clear that in some cases the constituency would bear the responsibility for carrying that out, but in other cases I could be helpful, the staff could be helpful. There are many roles and many hands make light work, and so if we can be helpful, great. The second thing I would look at doing is in the budget, as part of this planning process, you would be given the opportunity to say, these are the financial resources we need to carry out our plan. And we have to go through a process that enables you to justify those expenses. But, you know, truth of the matter is, if we're going to have engaged constituency caucuses, you're going to need the support and the engagement of everybody that we can bring to bear. And in some cases, you're going to need budgets. And I think that's a necessary and appropriate next step to work with these caucus constituencies, or constituency caucuses, excuse me. Yes?
Kurt, what new ideas have you gleaned from your opponents that you think are worthy of adoption for you to become the chair?
You know, I think one of the ideas that has surfaced several times is the idea that in 2017 we can help focus a lot of attention on specific issues. Our friends in the other party are going to have the controls of government here. And if we are clever, we're going to be able to hold their feet to the fire simply by bringing the facts out. So we can have issue-related forums where we help hold them accountable. Not necessarily designed to inform people. And I think the more people know, the more people are going to be inclined to lean our way. I think that's one of the ideas a lot of my colleagues have talked about, and they brought it to my attention. I think that we have more work to do there. I think the whole task of being in the minority now is going to be one of the challenges that we face. We've got to come up with some constructive ways where we can be responsible and where we can be building for taking obviously the governorship in 2 years, and at least one, if not both, houses of the legislature. Some of that starts by focusing on issues.
Hi, Kurt.
Yes, hi.
Jason Ferris, Progressive Caucus. Now, the Standing Rock issue has been a very important issue with the Progressive Caucus. We've actually had two of our members, Jack Shula and Jessica Pierce, physically go to Standing Rock. So we want to know, would you use your position to speak in favor or against a pipeline publicly?
You know, taking issue or taking positions on issues can be a divisive thing. In this case, I would stand with the people of Standing Rock, and I would do so publicly. Time's up.